friends. How are you? Happy Wednesday, I think that it is. Hello, for those of you that are new to me. My name is Brooke-Sidney. I'm a spiritual wellness coach and speaker who focuses on helping people love themselves and the lives they are presently living. As many of you have heard me say time and time again that I believe in heaven. I just don't think we have to wait for heaven in order to love ourselves right now. And today I'm popping on a little bit late in the week. Normally I come on Mondays to share what I call my MindSoulful Monday, which are basically spiritual wellness or wholeness tips for us to be more soulfully mindful, soulfully having a better mindset or like a miracle mindset, and then be able to manifest what God has for us. Hello. Thank you guys for watching. So today I wanted to really dive into the power of listening to the still small voice. I call that the God within. For those of you that believe in God that I know of, some people might say the Holy Spirit, but there's power in listening to that voice. And so today I wanted to give like some very real examples that have happened in my life just over really about the past 2.5 weeks that I think is really important to share, because I think a lot of times we have so many spiritual wellness or coaches or people, even preachers, whomever, talking about listening to God and hearing God, but it's not practical. Like, people don't know how that looks in their lives. People don't know what that voice even sounds like, or even how to listen to it. So today I am popping on to share that. Of course, if you've been following me for any time at all, you know that I am offering an online Visioning with God for 2020 and Beyond Masterclass on this upcoming Saturday, December 7th. It's online, so you can tune in wherever you are. I'd love to see you, especially if you are not in California. But I'd love to see you wherever you are. So I invite you to check that out. As I was joking around earlier, God spoke about the price. I listened. So now the Black Friday savings is just continuing. So there's a new guaranteed low price. Check that out. That's bit.ly/VWG 2020. But I'm getting on. I am fresh back from traveling. For many of you that are my friends or truly following me, you know that my beautiful aunt recently passed. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about the value of listening to that still small voice. About a couple of weeks ago, we knew that my aunt's health had gotten worse. And so I heard like this voice. My cousins were talking about it, like, you know, maybe it's a good time to come see her. But as you all know, we all have competing priorities. We all have, like, I have a job. I have several jobs. I have a 5.5-year-old son, and I have commitments, right? And of course, I have a budget, right? I feel very blessed, but all of us have a budget. And so even then, I was low key, like, okay, let me think about it. Let me think about the finances to come now. Like, this was 2 or 3 weeks ago. And if she does, you know, if it doesn't perk up or change course, then coming again for a memorial service or a funeral. But when I was quiet and in my quiet time and praying and meditation, I heard that I should go. Like, legit, I should go. Go now, go when you can, and go visit your aunt while, you know, she's still in good enough health to know who we are, to talk to her, to see and support my cousin who was there. And my mom also decided to go, right? She also went. And that was about 2.5 weeks ago. And it was a beautiful trip. I got to see my aunt in better health. She knew who I was. And I credit that to listening to that still small voice that encouraged me and also made a way for me to go and to stay, as well as for my mother. I also took my son, right? Because I think it's important for him not only to know who she was and is, but to also understand how life works. So as you can probably imagine, I think if you've been following me, you know that I had to go back, or I didn't have to go back, but she did pass about 2 weeks later. And so that's where I was. And God willing, I heard once again to go to the memorial service to assist my family members as much as I can and to make that trip, right? So that's literally 2 trips across country from LA to DC in little over 2 weeks. And miraculously, resources were found, manifested places to stay, ways to go, perfectly aligned travel. And I'm saying this to share with you because listening to that still small voice often doesn't look like this big, like thundercloud, lightning moment. It's words from friends. It's things that you read in your quiet time. I often joke it's things that Spirit puts in front of me on my Facebook feed or my Instagram. And it's definitely also hearing that voice. But what happens is it requires discipline and practice. And so one of the things that God gave me today is that distractions exist to overcome our discipline and derail our destiny. Straight from above. Distractions exist to overcome our discipline and derail our destiny. I had to write that down because, again, God gave it to me in that moment and I didn't want to forget it. So know that as we are attempting to hear from God and attempting to listen within to that still small voice, that we're going to have distractions. We're going to have life that gets in the way. We're going to have concerns about money. We're going to have concerns about travel. We're going to have concerns about everything. And yet and still, when we are prayerful, when we are mindful, when we are listening and we tune our inner ear and outer ear to hear, that's a discipline and a practice. Then we start hearing. That's one of the reasons why I'm having that visioning with God for 2020 Masterclass, so that we can start learning those skills and putting those skills into practice. Because even this example for me shows, and I think that's the reason why it happened, so that I can show you guys in practice. So anyway, I want to share one final story today because I think it's even more impactful. I think as we prepare for 2020 and how we want our lives to be. Many of you are thinking about, of course, big goals, big things, big dreams, right? And that requires a big God. That requires being able to listen to our still small voice, being able to make the right choices and then feel free to do so, right? Because part of it in life is like you end up on your own path sometimes and you end up standing out, you end up being different because you're actually listening, right? You're not being one of the sheep. And, that's why I invite you to join the masterclass, because we talk more about standing up when you actually do hear a voice that is different from the crowd. So when I was coming back, I had my son and we were traveling back and we were scheduled to leave Monday at 5:30, right? And during the course of Monday, our travel kept getting delayed. Now this point I feel like this story has one of the biggest points about listening and not being afraid to go against the crowd. So keep listening here. So as Monday went on, we're preparing to come back, packing up our stuff. We keep getting alerts that my flight was being delayed. Like it went from 5:30 to 6 to 6:30 to 6:37. And finally, we got to the airport knowing the delayed time. And as my son and I were getting ready to, board the plane, we were like the middle boarding group. I noticed that the arrival time in Los Angeles kept going up. Most of you know that, well, I travel enough to know that sometimes when we have delays, like, I don't know, God's Spirit helps out the pilot that, helps us make up time. I'm just giving a joke because I know a little bit about air traffic control and slots and so forth and tailwinds and all that. But the point is that normally the arrival time doesn't keep ratcheting up. And so as we were in line to board, the plane arriving in LA literally went from like 9:30, which was a normal delay for an hour, into 10, 10:30, 11. And as we were about to go to the gates, 11:37. So I asked the gate attendant, I said, why is the time going up? Why? Like, this is scaring me now. We're supposed to get back at 9:30, and now you're telling me it's going to be like after 11:30, like I have a small child and so forth. And she says, now we are stopping in Dallas. There was no notification that we're supposed to stop in Dallas. So she says we have to stop in Dallas because this plane doesn't have enough fuel. Wait, are you serious right now? I'm supposed to put myself and my son on a plane that has not enough fuel to get us to Los Angeles from DC. And now we're making pit stops into Dallas. And then, oh, by the way, she shares, I'm like, because there's not enough fuel. She shares, yeah, because we're going into the storm. We're actually traveling into the headwinds, and it's going to use up even more fuel. So we're going to go into Dallas, stop, and then have to get more fuel and then take off again. Now, mind you, the Brooke-Sidney that most people know, I'm like, I paid for a nonstop. I'm not trying to, not trying to have 2 takeoffs and 2 landings. Nope, I paid exactly for not that experience. But secondly, I didn't want to fly into bad weather. Coming out, we had some bad weather, and it really terrified my son. So he flies a lot with me, and so I want, obviously, to create good experiences for him to fly. I think he's on a roller coaster and so forth, but like flying actually into a storm. And then the last piece of information I think was really critical was she said that she didn't know what time we were going to get out of Dallas. So we're flying into a storm. We don't have enough fuel. We can't get all the way to LA, and you don't know what time I'm going to get home or if I'm even going to get out of Dallas. And oh, by the way, she had not announced that to anyone. So after I was asking all these questions and I think turning the ears of people in line with me, that's when they decide to make an announcement after they had boarded half of the plane. So I'm getting onto the plane and I literally hear this voice and also feel this feeling that don't go, like get off the plane, like literally get off the plane. And this is how it works, y'all. This is how it works. And I literally heard an audible voice, like, get off the plane. It didn't feel right. It didn't feel good, right? Because when I feel like there's a peace of God, of knowing, God's with you and there's like this peace on you. And I had the exact opposite of peace. And I'm looking at my son and I started getting on the plane. And then I heard that, and immediately, this is what also happens. Distractions, doubt, fear comes in, right? Some people will call that the devil, the enemy, whatever. It is real. And so that was coming in, like literally, oh my gosh, you're gonna have to pay like thousands of dollars to get a one-way ticket back. Oh my gosh, Brooke, you're just being like, too uppity, too whatever. You're not taking the flight, because everybody else is just piling onto the plane. They're seated already and they're chilling. Now, the people on the plane before I got in, they didn't even know because the airlines didn't tell them. And then the other people are just piling on. So again, people are probably starting to feel a sense of apprehension. But since everyone else is on the plane and everyone else is fine, then it might as well be okay. But I clearly heard, no, you can get off the plane, like you can go. And so although it may not have made sense to the majority of the people on the plane, I knew that I should get off. I didn't know where I was going to go, how I was going to rebook, how much it was going to cost, where I was going to stay that night, even though I did have tons of family and friends. Obviously, I'm from DC, in DC, and I did not want my son and I to get stuck in Dallas. I made the decision to be that lone person with child plowing back through. I mean, I did wait and ask for the stewardess, told the stewardess I wanted to get off the plane. But no, legit, I had to stand alone. I had to risk being an inconvenience. I had to risk looking like an idiot. And I had to not be the sheep in the crowd. So my son and I got off. There is a good moral to the story. We got off the plane. The gate agent was looking at us like, are you kidding me right now? Because the rest of the plane, all the people had come on and asked for our seats. We gave them the seat numbers, and legit, like I have people saying, wow, legit, it was like, well, you can go to customer service. And so I did. And I went to customer service, explained. There were people standing around that were like, wait a second, she got off the plane. And because I was not comfortable, and honestly, because I heard the voice, get off the plane. Like, I knew that I didn't want to get stuck in Dallas with my small child, nor travel on a bumpy plane all the way there, in and out, blah, 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 and not knowing when I was going to get out. So let's just say that God had one of my friends who I know actually see me in the airport. He was traveling somewhere else, come up to me, ended up helping me. And my trip after it was actually completely rebooked. I was rebooked on another flight the next day at no cost, right? None whatsoever. So all of those things I was worried about, the cost of the trip, how it was going to work out, all of that. Then I actually had a friend, as I'm saying, that tapped me on the shoulder, saw my son, and then ended up actually helping me. I had to go get some, underwear. My bags and everything for my son and I were on the plane. Underwear, some warmer clothes, right? And so forth at the neighboring Pentagon City Mall, which was like 2 metro stops. I'm saying all this to say because God worked it out. I ended up with a hotel right by the airport so that if I wanted to try to go for an earlier flight, but rather than getting stuck in Dallas, listening to that voice got me safely home on a non-turbulent, non-stop flight with my son last night. I'm telling you this is because this is how the still small voice works. It's not always rings from heaven, woo, or thunder and lightning, or 10 people telling you. And I know we have a habit, especially, waiting for confirmation. People, I want to get confirmation. I want 3 things. I want to confirm 3 times. No, sometimes God speaks to you once. Sometimes God gives you that inkling inside and you are just supposed to listen. So that is exactly what I did. And what I found was that I was supported. What I found was that God made a way. What I found was I felt immediate peace after making that decision. What I found was that I created in my son the idea that we can stand up for ourselves. When we don't feel good about something, we can make a decision that is good for us. We don't have to follow the crowd. And your decisions, hear me clearly, your decisions, especially when you hear, don't have to make sense to everyone else around you, because oftentimes those that are carefully listening and tuning in are not the sheep. They're not the crowd. We are not just following along, right? And so that experience showed me I was the only person that got off the plane. And oh, by the way, I checked that plane at after midnight East Coast time. The arrival into LA was scheduled for around 1:15. Estimated the plane in Dallas had not taken off yet. So what I had a vision of coming to pass was exactly what came to pass. And I feel so blessed that I listened. But listening, I'm telling you all, is a practice. It is a discipline. And that's one of the reasons why I feel like God is really having me share this online Visioning with God for 2020 Masterclass. Because as we roll into 2020 is like, 27 days away? When we're rolling into a whole new decade, we're going to have new challenges, new obstacles, new distractions, right, that can derail us from our destiny. We have all of these things that are happening all of the time. It's not like listening to God and listening to what some people call it intuition, listening within is going to happen in silence. It's going to happen in a silo. No, we're going to be living and moving through our lives, right? That's what the information is for us to live in step with God as we move throughout our lives. And so it is for these reasons that I'm like, I need to get on and share this, these stories, because this is how it works in practice. Again, I love this quote that God gave me. Distractions exist to overcome our discipline, because it requires discipline to hear, and derail us from our destiny. There's greater places ahead for us. There's amazing things. I believe that there are miracles and blessings and abundance and fulfillment and purpose in 2020. I believe that. I believe it for myself, and I believe it for you. If you're listening to me, then I know that this teaching, what I'm saying, this word, matters right now for us. It matters right now. And so I don't want people to have to go into 20 feeling overwhelmed. I don't want people to think that it's magically going to happen. That's the other thing, that this relationship with God, this inner listening, this listening to God, hearing from God, and following is just going to magically happen. No, we live in a world where that's not how it works, right? We live in a world where anything that we want and anything that matters requires a practice, and it requires a discipline. So even just as simple as brushing our teeth, we had to establish that habit and establish that routine. And as with anything else, if we want to live our lives in step with God, the highest ways, the highest thoughts, if we want to bring heaven down to earth, if we want to be able to live in alignment, live our purpose, and serve not just ourselves, that requires a discipline and a practice and tuning our outer and inner ear to hearing God. So I just wanted to get on and share. As you can see, today's a glasses day. I am so tired. I'm exhausted, because it's not like all of these things come all the time and it just like without the realities of daily living. Let's just put it like that, right? And so I wanted to get on and share. Of course, I wanted to invite, we still have spots and openings in my online Visioning with God for 2020 Masterclass. This is not a girls' class. This is not a men's class. It's an everybody's class who wants to have greater connection, greater intimacy, and have a practice to establish a discipline for daily, moment by moment, being still and listening to that still small voice, the God within, so that we can make better choices. Because as you and I both know, our lives are not created in a vacuum. Our lives are not created just by, this choice, big choice here, this big choice there. It's created in the culmination of our moment by moment decisions and choices. So why wouldn't we want to do that on a higher level? Why wouldn't we want to tap into the God of the entire universe, right? The God that is the King of all things. I don't understand. I really don't. I don't really understand lower thoughts, desires. But I think what it is most people are not really thinking about it. Most people are planning to throw some New Year's resolutions up on the wall on January 1st or January 2nd. And by January 15th, no real change has been made. No real intentions have been set, no goals or no plans. And we're definitely not listening to God. So again, I'm inviting you into my masterclass, bit.ly/VWG 2020, Black Friday savings. God said it. I'm listening, so you are saving. I'm encouraging you, though, to please share this out. Please show how listening to that still small voice. Share it with someone who thinks that maybe even that God doesn't exist, or that it doesn't matter if we listen to spirit, or it doesn't matter if we listen to that voice within, or someone that that is feeling very overwhelmed, or someone that needs some peace. Because the one thing that I know when I listen to that still small voice, the one thing that I definitely have is peace. So I'm inviting you today to not only love, share, and comment, but encourage someone with this video and share it out. So I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in the masterclass on Saturday. There's a replay for those of you that can't make it live. Make this decision to invest in yourself. Get ahead of 2020. We're planning out an entire decade, but we're doing this with our best source, our best resource, and that is God. So have an amazing week. Happy Wednesday, and I will talk with you soon.